Well, Razorback fans, it was another typical Razorback football Saturday. I should be numb to it, but I'm not. I'm going to tell you why on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Gonna have some things to talk about today and get into some officiating, because that's always fun, right? Get into that as well as maybe some positivity, maybe some things to look forward to as far as this week and the next. But I wish I could say that I had a great weekend. I wish I could say that you as a Razorback football fan had a great weekend. But I know you didn't. I know I didn't. Arkansas loses to Mississippi State 38-35. Had a 2-touchdown lead. 2 possessions late in the game. And just like clockwork, Arkansas loses once again. Officially out of bowl contention, by the way. 2-7, 7 straight losses. You know, I'll talk more about the game in the next segment, about some of the stuff from it. But I'm going to kind of go on a little bit of a rant here, folks, and hopefully I don't depress you too much. But I've been thinking a lot about this. It's a pain that I think is unprecedented and one that I never thought I would feel because I didn't know it existed. Where each and every day and each and every game that I watch, it's this piling on of feeling not only of sorrow and anger and frustration, but fear. I was sitting there at the end of the game, and I was there in the north end zone, and I just was kind of basking in the insanity that it was. I put my head in my hands for about 5-10 seconds, just trying to wrap my head around what I just witnessed. And as soon as I lifted my head up, I kind of looked around at the faces of the Razorback fans, or at least most of the fans that were still there. And it scared me. The facial expression that so many Razorback fans had, it's not one of anger, really. Frustration. It wasn't one of like, oh man, we lost. It was a facial expression of simply, what did I do to deserve this? Now we can say it in a joking manner and like the memes that come along with it of like, oh man, you know, we're punished, we're cursed, we're all this. But it was scary to me to see that, because in human nature, anytime you see somebody that has that feeling legitimately to where they are in pain, they're suffering, and they don't know why. They don't know why they are going through this and continue to go through this time and time again. Our immediate reaction is to jump in and try to help, you know? Some injustice is being done towards somebody and they're in pain, you want to help. But it's a scary thing because there's not something that just we or you or I can just jump in and help somebody like that. It was really depressing. It's really depressing. And then I go outside after the game and I started kind of thinking things through, started walking. And I was trying to figure out what feeling I could relate this to. Like if there's a feeling that I could have that could maybe be relatable outside of football. Like what is this? Because I'm not numb to it. I know I can expect it. I can brace for it, but it's still not going to be something that doesn't suck to me. And it's just everything, man. It's everything. It's everything about the football program. And it's been that way for a long time. The only thing I can really try to maybe relate it. And if this is a little too morbid for you, if this is a little too weird for you, that's fine. But this is the only way I can kind of, at least in a verbal sense, relate the feeling and the pain that I go through as a Razorback fan watching this. I think back to, we were all kids and we all went to school. And I think being a kid at school, you're wanting to be social. You wanted to be liked. You wanted to have friends and everything at school. It's something. And this just feels like Razorback football has become you as a kid going to school every day. And every day, everyone in class is in on an inside joke that's about you. And you're the butt of the joke. And you're never told why. It's never explained to you. Kids will laugh at you and they'll all kind of look at each other and laugh. And you're sitting there. It's like, hey, what's so funny? What's going on? I don't get it. And then when you ask that, the other kids just shake their head and laugh at you and walk away. No explanation. But then you get frustrated. You're like, well, why is it got to be this way? Like, what's going on? 1 day, 2 days, 3 days that happens, it kind of, gets become frustrating. But when it happens year after year, a few years in elementary school, if it keeps happening that way, you start to wonder, okay, well, the teacher's going to step in at some point. Teacher's going to step in. Principals are going to step in. Administration going to step in and finally say, all right, class, all right, kids, let's stop being this way. Don't do this anymore, because you're kind of looking towards them. It's like, you can't do anything, but they can. But it never happens. It's almost like they just don't even acknowledge you or acknowledge them or acknowledge the situation. They just keep going about their business. And you keep hoping that they say something. Like, hey, say something. And they don't. And it happens every single year for 12 years. Every day. Maybe not every day, because sometimes you do have a win every so often, but it just feels like it. You're just confused. You don't know why this is happening. You don't know why you're the butt of an inside joke, but you are, and no one's telling you why, and no one's telling you what the joke is. But the thing that I think is the most disappointing and the scariest of all, and again, this is how I compare it, is if you're a kid and you go home to your parents, they're kind of like the last line of defense, the last resort that you would have, your family. Talk about the things that are happening to you at school, and this thing keeps happening, and you don't know why. You just want it fixed. You don't want it to happen anymore. And you tell them about it. Tell your parents, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. I don't like it. I want it fixed. I want it changed. And your parents look at you and say, get over it. That's it. They don't tell you about any other things. No words of advice. Just deal with it. Because that's how I feel a lot of people at the U of A, at least in the administration, have approached and how they've treated some Razorback fans. Get over it. Deal with it. So then you go into your room and you're by yourself and you're just thinking. And you're scared. Maybe you're crying. Maybe you're whatever. It's just, you don't understand why things are happening the way they are. You want them to change, but it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how you ask. It doesn't matter how you approach it. You want change, but it won't matter. But you got to keep going to school. But it's never going to change. And then teachers don't do anything. Principals don't do anything. Your parents don't do anything. And then you end up just being there alone. Scared. Because you don't know if it'll ever end. You don't know if it'll ever change. It's been going on for so long. The energy level, the passion that you have, the life that you once thought you had, and the fandom that you once thought you had has just changed. And when you just want it better, No one cares. No one talks to you. No one says it's going to be okay. You just deal with it every single day. It's sad. It sucks. You may think I'm being overdramatic, and maybe I am. But I'm never not going to care, Like, I'm never not going to want to win. And finally, because we'll get into a big part of the game, but the final thing that I want to say, and again, this will be the last kind of example that I roll through, but when I left the game and I was leaving the stadium, I was walking back to my truck, and I see in the parking lot these kids just playing football, throwing the football around after the game. I don't have anything against these kids. It's like not something that I was like, oh, these kids. But they were laughing, carrying on and all that. And they're just kids. They were probably 12, 13, 14 years old. And I was just sitting there and I almost got like angry. Because I remember when I was that age, as a Razorback fan, a loss would devastate me, piss me off, ruin my day, ruin my Saturday. At that age. Now, I know every kid's different, but it's what it did to me. And just made me give a new perspective on why did I feel that way when Arkansas lost when I was a kid growing up. It was like, because I remember the feeling I had when they won a big game or just an SEC game, the feeling I had, how awesome it was. It was so awesome that I wanted it to keep happening. I wanted that feeling to keep happening every Saturday because everybody was in a good mood. Everything happened great. And anytime we lost, I hated it because I didn't want to feel that feeling. I wanted the other feeling. And I just couldn't help but think, I'm like, those kids, they don't know any better. They don't know what winning is and winning feels like. They don't know what it's like to go to a game in Razorback Stadium and leave with a win. And the times that they have, it wasn't a prediction. It wasn't an expectation. It's almost probably viewed by their mind as an anomaly, an exception to the rule. And I hate it. I hate it. I wish there was something I could say to fix things, to make everything better. I'm running out of optimism. That's saying something. But the biggest thing, folks, and I'll still watch the game, still talk about them, still talk about the coaching search and everything, but the biggest thing is, because I know we got to move on, but the biggest thing to me is I just don't want the fans to lose what they love the most. The reason I do what I do today, this podcast, when I did Sports Talk Radio with Inside Arkansas, is because I had a love for the Razorbacks. I loved them, not because I was told to necessarily, but I loved them because of the feeling it gave me when they won and the feeling it gave me when they lost. And now I'm just looking at kids these days and how long it's been. They don't know. Will they ever know? As more of the years go on, feels like the time slips away. And we just get closer and closer to just never knowing what greatness could be at Arkansas. It sucks. And I'm sad. But I'm hopeful for something to change. Something, anything to change. I got to talk about the game at least a little bit because there was something that happened in this game that was pretty egregious. And who knows, maybe I'll go from being very sad to very mad on the other side of the break. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, I got to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. We know that college football's in full swing, the NFL's in full swing, and we couldn't be more excited about it. All the tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, all that great stuff. There's nothing like it. Well, let's be real. Actually, getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use the Game Time app. the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. What's the easiest way to score last-minute ticket prices and at the best prices? No surprise fees. It's Game Time. What you see is what you pay. Anytime you pull up Game Time, in just a couple of taps, you can see all the amazing deals. I'm talking about some of your favorite college football games for as low as $25. You also got the zone deals too, where you pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. It's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I've ever bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Again, the game sucked, man. And it was something that, like, if Arkansas loses, because that part of it seems to be pretty frequent, it's bad. But I'm going to tell you this and clarify first. I'm not saying that the officiating is the main reason, or I should say the only reason Arkansas lost this game. But it might be the main reason. I've never seen anything like it, folks. I have never seen what transpired on Saturday in Razorback Stadium in my life. Arkansas was called for a school record 18 penalties for 193 yards. Not only is that a school record, that's a top 5 type of game in penalties. 193 yards, 18 penalties. 15 of those penalties were called in the second half. Okay? Something I'm gonna play this clip from Bobby Petrino real quick, because this is about as good as you're gonna get from a coach talking about what transpired in here. But I'm gonna respond to that and what he had to say, as well as some other things. But here's what Bobby said after the game.
We had some issues there in the third quarter that really hurt us. One of them was on me. I didn't really say a whole lot to get it called, but I did get it called, so that's on me, and that's not a good job. So, but it was hard. Our guys were competing extremely hard out there, and some things didn't go their way. So
it seems like the players really also battled through a lot of really tough calls in the game, 18 penalties and I think 193 yards, which is a school record.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on the number of penalties?
I can't say anything, but y'all ought to watch it.
Didn't feel like maybe the refs were overzealous at all?
You trying to get me fined?
I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
I do want to say something, but I can't. That's how they handcuff you. But I would just say watch the video, and the one thing I can say is they picked our quarterback up and souffled him, which is a really bad deal.
That was Bobby Petrino doing the best he could to hold it together when it comes to the officiating. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. And I feel like that penalty that got called against Arkansas, where Bobby was referring to it as when they got thrown for a 15-yard penalty, and then he was arguing the call because the call itself was egregious. And then he comes out and argues the call. He feels like he didn't say anything that was too out of the ordinary, but they flagged him for that. Once that thing happened, it just became crazy, non-stop. That was the same head official that apparently was suspended reportedly after the Auburn-Georgia game, because that's the game he did. And it looked like there was a crew that just wanted to be this type of game. I don't know if it was a Petrino thing. I don't know if they were overcompensating for something. I don't know if they felt like, hey, Arkansas is not going to make a bowl game and Mississippi State still could. I don't know. But that to me was a showcase of they wanted that game in Arkansas to get those penalties. Now, I'm not saying every single penalty they called was wrong, but some of the calls that were so egregious that not only that did get called, but then didn't get called, it was infuriating. It was infuriating. I've never seen an absolute ref show than what I've saw then. And that's saying something because we've seen some bad ones. And it's even one thing to have one bad call, two bad calls, whatever. But you're talking about that amount of penalties. Arkansas is not a team that gets penalized a lot this year. And these were also big penalties, like 15-yarders. They didn't call targeting, but then they threw a flag and they had reviewed it for targeting. Then they reviewed it, and I didn't think it was targeting on Larry Worth, but they called it, and he was ejected. Great. Gets to mix the first half of the next game. And then you had the late hit out of bounds that, goes one way where they call it, but the other way it doesn't. And then, like he talked about getting, Taylon Green getting suplexed. That happens, but nothing gets called. But then they say, they had Quincy Rhodes get called for unnecessary roughness when he slung the guy down in the backfield, but they didn't blow the whistle. So it's like, it's an embarrassment. I mean, the game is embarrassing as it is, but it's an embarrassment that SEC officiating is allowed to do this. And the fact that this guy and this crew, whoever they were, they should be ashamed of themselves. But this was a type of game to where they wanted this to be bad. They got mad about it, and I think they took it personally because they got their feelings hurt, and they just wanted to take it out on Arkansas. That's how it felt. Bobby said something mean to him, so therefore they're just going to make sure that every single call, because Mississippi State got called for 4 penalties on 30 yards. 4. And it cost you, because again, Arkansas is such a bad team. They can't afford to have the mistakes happen and win games. And it's like the simple things of, Mississippi State misses a kick, misses a field goal, but then Arkansas gets called for running into the kicker. They get another shot at it, and they make it. And they won by 3. It's like, oh, okay. See, something like that. Something as simple as that ends up happening. But Bobby, he had every right to be upset. The team has a right to be upset. And it's the thing is, like, I know Arkansas is not a good football team. I know. You know that. But they don't deserve that. They don't deserve the officials to come in there and make it about them and make it to something where they're taking something personally and taking out in a personal attack and having an agenda on it. Like, that's what they did. And hopefully there's some sort of answer for it. It won't matter because because here's the biggest thing that I've been saying for years. I know a lot of people agree with me. Officials should do press conferences and have their feet held to the fire too. They need to be held accountable and responsible for their actions, just like every single other person. Every coach is, players are. Why aren't officials? And it's not something to be like, we want to attack officiating. You know how you get people, fans, to feel a lot more respect for officiating, to feel a lot better about officiating, and feel a lot better about the circumstances, about the way things are, is if you humanize officials. Humanize them. We all make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. But I don't see the problem. I don't see the issue with holding people accountable in a public manner so that way people can understand more. Because there may be even sometimes where the officials or the calls weren't bad, just people didn't know. And then when you explain it, oh, okay. But this idea that if a ref is, if there's officials or a crew that is making bad calls, okay, then you know. What's the problem there? Everybody else is held accountable. They should be held accountable. And the less you hold them accountable, and the less we know anything, like for all we know, this crew is going to be working another game next week. And then the SEC and everyone's like, hey, great job, guys. You did a great job. Moving on. For all we know, that is. But the lack of transparency and the lack of help in this just makes everything so much worse. But it was an abysmal performance by the officiating crew. It should be an embarrassment beyond belief. I know Arkansas, Mississippi State, the 0-4 teams aren't going to get the A team here in officials. But I'd rather see it go one way where nothing gets called than the way it was. 18 penalties, 193 yards. It's an embarrassment. And again, I just wish there was at some point in time they'd be held accountable. And I wish that if I was Petrino, I would have gotten fined. Dabo Swinney got fined for saying something. I would have said something too, because that's another thing too. You fine coaches for criticizing them. Okay? So what happens to the officials? If they're right, though, what happens if they're right about their criticisms? Is there any punishment? Well, they don't get put on games. Tell people. Let people know what happens. Let people know if anything changes. But it's just a disgusting display. And again, not every penalty was not egregious, but 18 penalties for 193 yards is something that I hopefully never will see again. And it truly ended up costing Arkansas the game. Truly, it did. I hate it here. It's like, Arkansas's bad enough, man. We don't need the officials coming in here and being like, hey, we want to be a part of the terribleness too. It's like whatever thing that can happen against Arkansas to make them lose games is just what we continue to see nonstop. Sheesh. Luckily, there is some positivity, and there is something I want you all to look forward to. I'll talk about it next, so stay with us here on Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, we know that college basketball and the NBA, all of it's back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything, from who will score to the next fourth quarter comebacks, anything. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into same-game parlays for a bigger shot at a better payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up today and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I've talked about sad things, I've talked about angry things, and now I'm going to talk about happy things because that's the way of Razorback fans, just this wave of emotions and roller coasters that nonstop. But again, I don't want everything always to be negative and as depressing as it may be, because the thing I want you to look forward to is Razorback basketball. That's right, Razorback basketball happening. Isn't it great? Monday night. Finally going to be a first official game against Southern. And based on the exhibition games that we've seen, Razorback basketball is going to be really good. I'm excited about it. Now, some of you, again, probably as PTSD for Razorback fans, you're going to be like, yeah, well, I can't wait to see how that gets screwed up. Or, yeah, I can't wait to see us have something bad happen. And the thing is like, I'm not going to argue with you on that if that's the way you feel. But I just want to have something that you feel good about and have hope in and have faith in. And I'm really hopeful that all of this, kind of comes together and takes place. And they deserve it. And I'll say that I say this on social media all the time, and I did it last year, and I'll do it again this year. But if any of you have tickets to the game and you can't make it to the game and you can't sell them, especially for some of these midweek non-conference games, and you want Razorback fans to have them, that to get used, please let me know. Send them to me, DM me, whatever. Because there are always a bunch of Razorback fans that would love to go that either can't afford it or don't, have a big family and they just you can't make it work, whatever it is. But I always have people seeing if I have any tickets. And again, I understand if you want to sell them. I'm not saying you can't sell them. But if you ever do, don't let them go to waste, I guess is really the point. Don't let your tickets just not get used. Let me know. I will gladly give them to some Razorback fans. But I'm hopeful that the game day atmosphere is great. I'm hopeful for it. I know football has been struggling with everything, and the game day atmosphere has been pretty awful. I hope BUD WALTON ARENA is better than what it was a year ago. And, shout out to the Razorback football Twitter account. I don't know if anybody saw that, but before the game on Saturday, I don't know. I guess it could be maybe just considered as playful, but there's definitely, they tweeted out the official color codes of Arkansas, of the Razorbacks, and that was the uniforms they were wearing. And I was like, yeah, I think that probably has something to do with me and me complaining about how the Razorbacks always have different shades of red. They can't decide on one red, which if it's, just like trying to be cheeky, okay. But if it's something where they're like trolling me or trying to take a shot at me for it, which it's hard to tell these days because, it seems like some people at the U of A like me, some people don't. But it's trying to take a shot. I'm like, I don't know if that's the shot you want to take because that's pretty much what every fan feels. They see the same thing. So anyways, I'm just hoping that the little things, the little details can be better and become better and be in a situation where people feel better about it. But it's going to be a great year talent-wise. I mean, Arkansas's team is going to be awesome. The student section, hopefully, continues to get better. It needs some work. Everything just needs work surrounding the team. But the team is always the best foundation to build upon. So we'll see how it plays out. But I'm excited about Razorback basketball. I'm excited to see, where this team goes. Because not only do you have a game against Southern, but you got Michigan State on the road Saturday. So you have a bye week in football, but you have that going on. Still got the coaching search, as you know, Auburn fired their coach Hugh Freeze, so another job open that Arkansas gets to go up against. Just a lot of things, man. A lot of things happening in the college landscape. But we're always going to talk about it right here, discuss the latest, have some fun with it. And again, I hope Razorback fans understand once again. I always like to say this, especially after a very emotionally sad or critical podcast. But I am a Razorback fan. I'm always going to be a Razorback fan. I love the Razorbacks. I love the Hogs, and I want them just to win. That's all I want. I want them to be great. I want them to win. I want them to succeed. I want them to be as great as I know they can be. And that's my intention. That's always going to be my intention. And anything that I ever say and criticize or anything comes from a place of love and care, because that's why I do it, is because I love and care the Razorbacks. And I want to make sure that if there's something that I feel like they could do to help, as small, as minute as it may be, as stupid as it may be, I'm going to offer my opinion. Because I'm a fan like you, and I want us to win, and I want us to have fun, and I want Razorback fans, more so than anything, to feel proud and to feel great, because that's extremely important. And hopefully in basketball, especially in baseball when it comes around, will be great. Football, we'll see what the future holds, but I want that for everybody here, and hopefully you all can understand and appreciate that. That's all I'm saying. But I do appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. See you then.